All right. So, hi, my name is Diane Kamel. Welcome to today's Zoom. Today, we are going to discuss some techniques in rope bowl making, and I'd like to keep the time here to an hour or less. If y'all don't mind putting yourself on mute, and then open up your chat window, and then we've got Peggy who's helping to monitor, and then Peggy, if you don't mind, just draw my attention if people are asking questions. Just say, okay, there's some questions, and then I'll look over to my right and get those questions. So for today, what I'm hoping to do is show the loops. So here's some examples that I have done. So I had this posted in the group, and there are a lot of people who want to know how I did this. So that's one thing. Somebody on the phone wants to know how to put a braid on. I'll show you my technique. And this is the bowl. And I did the fabric on the bottom. And so we'll talk about how I did the fabric on the bottom. The fabric was on the inside. I don't have it on the outside. I did wrap the fabric around the roping. So there's a couple different techniques for that. And then this is a different, it's not I did not wrap this around, I stuck it in there. And if anybody's interested in how I did that, let me know and I will tell you how I did that. It's a little bit kludgy, but it was my solution to making my bowl even because I wanted it to all look even with this up here. So those are some techniques. Sorry for, I guess I'm a little nervous, but there was someone in the chat last night who wanted to know how to make the bowl flout outwards. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And there were some folks who enjoyed the teacup. So there's some, I didn't quite finish it off, but I've got this pinned in. But there you have it. We can talk a little bit about the teacup that I did as well. And is there anything else that anybody would want? Just if there's anything else, then go ahead and put that in the chat. Oh, yes. Okay, and here's an example. Thank you, Barbara. Here's an example of a bowl that I did. It was one of the first bowls. This is actually the first bowl that I did. And let's see if I can show you. I did fabric wrapping. There's a couple of different ways that I did the fabric, and I'll talk to you about that. And then I embellished it with a crocheted flower, and I also ended it with a circle. I have a little fetish about this being really choppy on the top. I don't like it to be choppy. I like it to be nice and smooth, or as smooth as I can get it, or camouflage it, one or the other. So you'll kind of see that in the way that I do things. So we are getting started, and I'm just showing people how I do my centers. I start out like this, and then I'm going to do a straight stitch. I'm going to go straight across, back to the middle, come across, go back and come up and down and do a star. So that's how I get started. And I'll turn the camera around, and I'm going to try to get a good angle so that you can see me. So it's going to take a little bit of adjustment.
One other request came in for how to join ends together.
Okay, so when you run out of rope and you need to join another rope, wow, that's something that I have not actually done, but it would be really kind of fun.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes, it's a very good question. So, in fact, let me answer how I would do that. So the way I would do that is, let's see if I can just, let's demo that first since I'm at an end. And so if I come to the end of my rope, let me just take one. And let me just get sewing. I'm going to do a little sew just to get a circle, and we can build from this. How's that? I have black thread on the top, and I have blue thread on the bottom so that we can see clearly. Obviously, I'm not going to be using this for anything other than demo purposes. So maybe I can raise my camera up a little. Some feedback on how the camera is set. Give me a moment here. I'm adjusting spider legs and the camera.
That looks good.
Does that look good? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I got to hook it around the table so it doesn't fall. There's not a lot of space here. All right. How's that? Can you all see good?
Good.
All right.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm working on I actually have a Brother Dream machine right now. I am using a zigzag stitch. The width is 3.5 and the length, I kind of like it to be up. I'm going to go with a 2.5 length. Actually, I'm going to do a straight stitch first because I want to get this going. Sorry, I probably shouldn't have cut the rope off quite there yet, but that'll give us some fun. So starting, I'm just going to go straight forward. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to turn it, go backwards or turn it around. And actually what I'm doing is I'm going to do like a star. And some people do this just by going back and forth, but I just turn it around. I like going forwards, I guess. When I think I can pull my pins out without ruining my circle, I pull my pins out. And basically what we want to do is just get ourselves, snippers, get ourselves positioned so that we can start sewing in the middle and going around our circle. Now, one thing that is very helpful is to know where your start and end are, and you're not able to see it. Let me come out to the edge here again. See if I can get you to see the end. So is it too far away, Peggy, to see? Let me just cut it. So let's just
No, I can see the star.
Okay, so this is how I start my center, and you'll see it's nice and flat. Snip off my threads, pull my pin, and that's how all my centers are. So that is how I begin. All right. What you're going to be concerned about so the technique that I find the best in putting fabric on the bottom of the bowl is to cut a circle, and then what you want to do is you want to cut your thread, you want to flip your bowl over, and you want to stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to show that as soon as this gets a little bit bigger, but for right now, let's see what it would look like to add a piece of rope on this. Now, the way I would add a piece of rope on would be to angle the rope so that when these two are put in together, they only make one rope worth of thickness. Can you see that? Now, some ropes, I'm going to pin, let me just to do this. I'm going to pin that here. Pin that there. So this is the rope, the way I want to continue with it. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave some off of this, or I'm going to pull the core. If you have rope that has a core, the core works good. This rope is just, there's so much, there's not a real core in the rope that I use. So what I find I can do is just leave the outside and cut the inside. And by the inside, I mean the part that's closest to the bowl. So I've cut that. And then I want to do the same, only the opposite. I'm going to cut the outside. Let's see. Did I do that right? Actually, I only need to cut one. I'm going to lay it like this and zigzag that nice and tight. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to pretend that I have started in the center and I've come around and I'm now on, let's see, we'll start it right here. And I'm resetting my length to 2.5. I'm going to start in one, and you'll see what I mean. And I straddle the two ropes. I'm good at it. And I need to tell you, if you could see me, you'd be giggling because I'm hugging my phone and tripod. And I will tell you that when I get started, I do start very slowly so that I catch everything. Oops. It's a little harder catching the rope in when you're hugging your phone. And I do that occasionally. Like I'll flip the bowl around instead of cut my thread. All right, so what I want to look for here is to tuck these ends in really, really nicely and bring this new end in as close as I possibly can, overlapping. And then I would use a stiletto I have right here to keep everything pushed in and under, keeping it as close as I can. Oops. And most of that second rope is going to be tucked in a little nicer on that next round. So that first round is going to look a little bit shabby on the outside, but when you get going, come around, you'll catch it. And then see what I want to, if you can see the fray. So what I want to do is I really want to get that fray inside the rope, tucking it in between the rope base and the free rope. You'll see that we can get most of that fray taken care of on this round. So let's go back around, and then you can see how I did. And you can grade me if you like. I might not be as good as some of the amazing people that are out there, but I have fun, and I guess that's the name of the game. So this is, you can see a little bit of fray here. That's where I did the join. Now, for the person who wanted to know how to join, is that acceptable to you? I'm cutting some of my frays off. And there you go. Any comments?
No, it looks good.
Does it look good? Okay, great. Now I'm going to just plot a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, that's a first. So there you go. That was my first time ever doing something like that. All right. So for the person who wants to do the circle, let's do the circle fabric next. I'm going to grab a piece. Um, just 1 second. I have tons of fabric, but I want one that will show nicely. And let me cut a circle. Now my circle's not going to be perfect, so I hope you're okay with that. Oh, that's pretty, but it won't show the stitching. This one's going to show the stitching. Thank you. So I have to tell everybody, my daughter Barbara is here sewing with me, and I just love it. Oh my gosh, it didn't make us. Oh dear. Okay, this is a really tiny circle, all right? It's too small. I would actually start with a circle much bigger than that. So let me start with a circle. Okay, Barbara, I'm going to take you up on that scrap that you gave me. I need a bigger circle. Yeah, that's okay. Thanks. All righty. So what I would do is I'm going to cut my thread right now. And I'm going to do something else for you. See, I'm hugging my camera. It's not very good. I'm not very good at hugging. One of the things I like to do is keep track of where the actual start was, and I come out. Now, when I first got started making bowls, it was really hard for me to see that was my beginning. So that is where I started. When you're putting fabric on, you want to know that because you've got a ditch. When you're putting fabric on, what I liked about what Lori Moore does is she flips this over and she stitches in the ditch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my fabric on this, and of course it would be in a circle, but I don't have it in the circle. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to pick a spot, any spot, to get started, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch. So some people will start right in the center, but I'm going to start in the outside, and I have to go the opposite way. So let me think on this a second, because I don't want to go back in the circle. I want to come back. I want to come out of the circle. So I am going to come around this way, which is the opposite of the way you're doing it when you're sewing your bowl. You're going to do a straight stitch. I'm going to do a little bit bigger stitch, so I'm not spending too much time doing this. And I'm positioning my needle right in a ditch somewhere. And you can start right in the center if you want. It's just a lot of turning. I think doing it from here is just fine. And when I first get started, it's a lot of turning and stitching in that ditch. So I'm just going to go around a couple of times, trying to eye the, and hopefully the blue thread in my bobbin against the black thread fabric will show up pretty good. So you're just going to come around. So notice I'm going in the opposite way of the way that you would go when you're doing the rope itself. Hope that makes sense. Get around a little bit, turn it around, and continue. Just a few minutes, I'll show. It shouldn't take too much long. I hope you won't fault me if I have too many wigglies. When I'm doing this for real, I'm really taking my time and steering this, and I'm not hugging the camera. So, hope that makes sense. See, I'm just gonna race out to the outside edge here. Now, when you get the base the way you would like it, and what I meant was the size that you would like. So the fabric, I want my fabric to kind of end here. Right, so I'm going to actually cut my thread, pull this out, take a look at it. Now I'm hoping you can see the blue thread. Can you see the blue thread? And I skipped a row. I did that on purpose. I just want you to know.
We can see the lines anyway.
Okay, good. I'm sorry that this is, yeah, I'm sorry it's so dark. All right, so then what you want to do is you want to pull that fabric up into the rope. You want to kind of end this nicely. So what I'm going to do is trim so that there's just enough rope to come in between this row and the next row. And I am going to make a split so that my rope can come on the outside. Right? And what I mean by that is rope goes on the outside and starts to come over like this. And then your fabric, I like to just fold it under and then get it all tucked in there in the next row. Does that make sense? So I've got this folded over. Can you see that okay? So yes. I'm going to start. Okay, great. And thank you, Peggy, for giving me feedback. I want to make sure people can see it. I'm not actually looking at the camera. I get going and I threaded my needle. So then when you're on the top, you're just going to come over and get started with your zigzag. And you're going to tuck that right in. Now, I would have trimmed this, and I haven't. So just saying, I would have trimmed it. But that being said, let's see what happens if you decide to not trim it. Then what you can do is pull this up in the next row and trim it. Or you can put a piece of fabric on the outside. But normally I would have trimmed this around in a circle. So in fact, let me do this side so you can see. Does not need to be trimmed by much, just the width of the fabric. Excuse me, just the width of the rope. So I would be trimming around like that. I will take the rest of that off. Again, some of my technique is it's not perfect because I'm pulling on the rope a little too hard. So don't do that. As I say, not as I do. Average. If you pull on the rope, you'll get a warping in your bowl and you'll get it so that it begins to stand up. But because I didn't have a good handle on the fabric, okay, so I'm gonna stop. Normally you wouldn't have to stop at this point, but if I had trimmed my fabric, I wouldn't have to stop, because see what happened when I trimmed my fabric? There it all is. So this is the part that I trimmed and it's all caught in there nicely, and there's your edge. This is the part that I didn't trim. You can come around and trim afterwards, but you're going to risk snipping your stitches. Just be careful. If you're used to doing machine embroidery, all you're going to do is just lift up your fabric and slide the, these are, I don't know if you can see them, they have a little bit of a bend in them. They're applique scissors, snippers actually, and they slide right along top of the stitches without cutting them if you're careful. I'm trying to be careful so that you can see I'm not telling you a fib. And there you go. So this is the side that I did not trim first, so you can see a bit of it. And then this is the side that I did trim first, right here, down here. So you can see that it's much cleaner if you trim. And then what I did was I put my rope on top and used it to kind of pull the fabric into that slot. So there's that. Okay, any questions on that? So we did joining the ends together. We did the stitch in the ditch method of adding fabric to the bottom of the bowl. And remember that your fabric is going to be on the bottom when you're doing the stitch in the ditch, so you can follow it right in between your rope is where you want to follow. You can start right in dead center and come around. Just remember that most of your bowl is going to be to the right as you're coming around so that you can come around big. While when you're making your bowl in general, it's your rope is on the right, not your bowl. Okay, so there's that. Now, what's the next one, Peggy? I've lost track.
Let me see. Hang on.
Oh, we wanted to add a braid. Oh, we wanted to do this. This would be a good time to. So I kind of fooled around doing loops over and over again and decided that the best way for me was to use my finger, take the rope, bring it up, go around, and bring the loop on top, and then just use my finger just as a way to size it, okay? So, and then you're gonna zigzag over the top of it. So let me get a good zigzag in there. I'm gonna widen my zigzag to 4.0 so that I can get it right over the top of that. And let's see. Yep. So there's my rope. And I love my stiletto to kind of help hold it in. I'm going around. And then what you want to do is do it consistently. So I've got my fingers pointed to my sewing machine, my rope is over my finger, I loop it in and bring it around. And then my loops are the same size. So I get a loop, use my stiletto to keep it in place, and then stitch. And you just keep doing that all the way around. And it can be fun. It can be, if you're in a hurry, not fun. So there's how you do loops. Okay. Now,
very cool.
The fun part will be coming around at the end. So I'm just going to do part of it loops, and then I'm just going to speed around because again, this is all about technique. Not guys watching me sew. So when you get to the end, you've got one last loop, and you want to know what the heck do you do to get it to look right. And what you're going to do is sneak that rope up underneath the first loop. Okay, so again, love my stiletto. Make sure that everything is in place. Pretend that we have a whole line of loops. That in there. And slow down because there's a lot of rope. And then what I like to do is just sneak this right up into, now you're using matching thread, not black thread like I am, but I am catching all three pieces. And then I am starting the next round, okay? Just like that. Now, to get them all even, if you wanted to start getting an angle, this is where you would do your angle to bring your bowl up like that. If you wanted to get that to be the bottom edge of your bowl, then that's how you would do that. And you would pull that rope across. So let's just do that. I'll have a really weird sampler here. Again, I'm using that stiletto to position my loops the way I want them to be. You'll see that, you know, when you first get started, don't be surprised. You're going to have kind of wonky loops. And I'm sure these will be a little wonky too. Okay, so let's see how I did. All right, so there you go. Okay, how's that look? I think that
cool.
looks
That's great.
cute.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it looks cute.
Yeah.
And then when you come around, it's going to come, you know, your next row is going to come around and it'll be on top of all your loops and you will just continue in the shape that you want from that point forward. Now, some people might want to go in and you may want to join these. I actually, on one of my bowls, I actually with thread did this. So let me show you what I did. It's black thread. It's going to show up like a sore thumb, but it'll give you an idea of what I did. Because some ropes are not as strong. They're not as stiff, is what I want to say. You can kind of bring some stiffness into it by going like this, just back and that will kind of bring. I think you get the gist.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's showing up like a sore thumb, like that black thread, but it will help those stay nice and stiff for you. I think that once you get practiced and you figure out how big you want that hole, that's going to give you the firmness that you want. Okay. All right. So the next one was the braid. And I just need to remind myself how I did that. I love a flat braid. Yes, that's exactly what I did. All right. I love a flat braid. And so I tucked, let me turn my camera back around. Okay, so I love a flat braid. So you can see that's nice and flat. And the way you braid it is important. So you can get a rounded one or you can get one that's flat. And if you braided hair, you can, when you bring it way over the top, it makes kind of like a round fat braid. For a bowl, I like mine to be flat. So I bring it like you would a braided rug, so that you're just kind of swinging it in. So I can show you how to braid in just a second. Let me cut some rope here. And I will tell you that what I decided to do to get the look that I wanted to achieve was I cut 3 strands. And I measured, so I know that I did all the math for you, and there's a formula for doing you measure the diameter of your bowl, you get the circumference, and then you multiply that times a number, and I can't remember what it was, and then you add a couple inches. That's what I did. So you're going to take 3 strands. I'm running out of rope here, folks, so I'm not gonna do a big one. I'm just gonna do a small one. Let's see. And I believe, if I'm correct, I did 1 long strand, folded it in half, and then I tucked a 3rd one in the middle, and that's how I did my braid. So let me turn this around. I start out with 3 strands. So there's my 3 strands. I am going to stitch those all flat together. And actually, this is going to be covered by fabric because that's my preference. It can be considered cheating, but I think anything that looks good to me is going to be okay. I don't mind if I do a little cheating. So I just want to get that as flat as I can. And then I will show you my intention. This is a piece of fabric. My intention is that this is going to be completely enclosed like this. When I am done doing the braid, I'm going to put the other side inside here. And that's going to be at the top of my bowl. A nice finish, nice and flat. And so that's how I'm going to do it. And you can start out by taking your fabric and sewing it along the top here just to get yourself started and to give yourself something to hang on to. So I will do that. may not have sewn that perfectly straight. So again, I'm not wanting to waste time, but the idea is that you would then pull it up and then you would have, and this would be a bigger piece, okay? And everything would be in there nice. And it would be completely enclosed. There would be no raw edges. So then for braiding, I just use my needle and my presser foot to hold this. Let me pull my camera back a little bit. You can use a clip. If I can do this. You can use a clip. Now, there's two ways of braiding. There's bring it over and over. So I'm doing the rounded way this way. I'm really getting it in there. I'm trying to show you up close. Okay. If you pull, so when you get your stuff in a knot, just pull one of them and everything falls out. So that's how you get your braid consistent. So what I'm doing is I'm taking and rolling the rope over, and that gets a nice rounded edge. Now, there, if you want, you can do a more flat braid, which is what I prefer. And all I'm going to do is leave it flat on my table, and I'm just going to swing the sides in, and I'm going to be able to see how loose that is. And what I'm looking for is that each of these loops are consistent in size from one side to the other. And that will make a nice flat braid. Again, just pull one strand to get your tangle out. Are you able to see this okay? My hands bring the camera.
Cool.
So that's how I do my braid. Now, when I'm done braiding, I'll just do a, let me see, I'll do all that I have here. Just do it quickly. So whatever. Let's see. I want you to, I'm going to put a better piece of fabric on the back side so that you can really see what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to call this done. Well, sorry. I'm going to call this done, and I'm going to cut this. So what you're looking for is to have these come around and butt into these with that fabric holding them together. And all you would need to do is top stitch that fabric. So really what I want to do is make a tube. So let me make a tube. Get a couple pins in there. All right, I need a little bit bigger piece of fabric. When I did my bowl, I made the fabric strip 2.5 inches square, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I can check that approximately right now. So I have like a square, and obviously I am doing things not for perfection. You're going to literally make a tube. And you'll want to turn that inside out. That's why I did 2.5 inches. And it's always when you want to do things in a hurry that it always takes forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you have this in a tube, what we're going to want to do is just fold those raw edges in. So I've got it in a tube. I'm going to finger press it. I love this stiletto for that. Just finger press that. I can decide where I want that seam now. I'm going to fold these ends in, making that tube as long as I want it. In my case, I just want it like an inch and a half. And all my raw edges are inside. Okay. Now, this particular piece of fabric can be the same color as your rope. It can be part of it can be the place where you'll put whatever decor you want to put on there. And what you're going to do is you're going to tuck the rope in the ends. Actually, I'm going to stitch these a little bit closer so you can get a real life view. So I am going to trim those just outside my stitching line. I'm going to take this crazy ugly thing off and do this side again. I like my stiletto, folks. Keep hammering. And that just hurts. That just hurts. Now, when I put the braid on, if it's the last row, then I want that seam to be on the part of the bowl that I'm going to be stitching. Just going to tuck that in there. Turn it till I get it where I want it. So a little pin help. Take the other side. Now remember, when you come around, just make sure your braid isn't, by the time you get to this point, you know, your braid will be attached to your bowl for most of it. And because I did a really great job of butting those ends together, this is going to be like a picture of perfection. Not. Okay, so then you're just going to do a straight stitch, and I'm going to do a square. So what I do a square all the way around and catch everything in. So I'm going right to there, turning, going this way, turning, going this way. Probably should have pulled that pin, and then going this way. And there we have it. And then all you would do, that's how you finish the bowl, actually, because now if you can imagine that this was mostly already attached to a bowl. And then I like them to be flat, but if you wanted it standing up, it could do that as well. And there you have it. That's how you would do your braid. Did that help? I hope that helps somebody. Anybody?
Help me.
Oh, great. So that's kind of fun, right? So there is a video out where there's some comments, I think, about a video that I put out. I don't know if I left it there or not. For those of you who are new to the group, and believe you me, there's lots of you that are new to the group. I started this group, I want to say a couple of years ago, and it was based on it was specifically for a small group of people who really enjoy Lori Holt fabrics. And so that's how the group got birthed. And so with that, I did some fun things with Lori Holt fabric. And one of them was to make a 3D flower and leaf. So we did a flower using fabric wrapped rope, just a circle, and then I used heat moldable batting, which was kind of a fun product to use, and I made a leaf using one of Lori Holt's leaf templates, and put that batting in. Now you can't iron that batting until you're ready for it to be shaped, but you do an oversized leaf or flower petals or whatever, and you sew them all together and put them the way you want, and then you hit them with steam and it shrivels all up and it gets real hard, and you can move it to get a nice 3D shape. So if anyone's interested in doing that, I think there's a video already on the Rope Bowl site so that you can learn how to do that. Oh, the loops. Okay, so the last thing that I want to show you is let's see what time it is. Okay, yes, we have 10 minutes. I'm not going to be able to do this in 10 minutes, but I will tell you how I did this. So I did the base first, and believe you me, for this particular technique, this is really tiny. It was a little hard getting in there, but I do want to show you my little tricks. I did the rope bowl base, and you can see I cut it right here. I cut it right off right there. Then what I did was I made loops. I made a continuous loop. Hang on, I took on rope. I know how many inches were around this base because that's what helped me get you all the right formula. And so then what I did was I laid out this rope, looping it on a ruler. Here, knocking the camera. I believe I used like an 8. I think I needed 8.5 or 10 inches. So I just went back and forth. I just went back and forth until I had everything, all my loops were nice and straight, and then I zigzagged in between them, stopping. I stopped 1 inch before the end. Okay, so you can see that all of this is, I stopped right there. Okay, and so I had this flat piece, and I will show you. Oh, can I show you? Okay, I can take this one apart so that I can show you instead of redoing it because we don't have enough time to redo. Okay, so this is where cheating comes in. So notice what I've done. I have laced this with the rope that I left at the bottom of the bowl. So here is what I did. And here is my lace. I took an extra piece of rope and I wove it through all of those loops in order to close my bowl. So it looks a lot more complicated than it is, but this is just one flat rectangular piece that I then attached to the bottom of the bowl. And I found it easier flipping that bowl inside out and doing it inside out all the way around. And I just stitched it, you know, because my foot, right, there's not a lot of space here. So let me just get you started here. There's my loop. Let's see if I can get the camera a little closer. So here's my loop. And I'm starting right there, and I am coming all the way around, stitching this on that last loop. But this is all one piece right here. So there's no fussing. I can make a nice flat piece before I put it on my bowl. And then as long as I know how much space I want at the end of these two loops, and I know what that measurement is, my bowl laced up just fine. Okay? So cheater, cheater, right? I got my nice smooth top. Oh, to get my nice smooth top, I want to show you the last loop. I don't know if you can follow it or not. This is the last row, and I turned it inwards. And then I did an angular cut on my rope to give it, try to get hands in here. I'll let them. When I ended my rope, I gave the rope an angular snip, just like that, about an inch worth. and it allowed me to get that nice and thin, pulling it, getting it nice and thin so it didn't have a big bump. Because if you just stop, you're just going to have a big bump right there. It's going to look like that. But this way, when you come in, it's not as noticeable. You can still see it. You can still see, but it's really a lot smoother there. And I just happen to like that a little better. And I wouldn't probably have come out that far if I'd known what I want, what it would do. I probably would have left it up in here. I just didn't want to take any chances. And then you just zigzag over the top of your raw edges. So I think that we have concluded everything that we wanted to do for this particular Zoom. I'm going to check. So are we good? Oh,
Yep, we're good. That was everything.
That was everything. Okay. So I see that someone just barely joined us, and I'm so sorry. We just came to a conclusion. But we have been recording this. Hello, my name is Diane, just to tell you one more time. And I do have a little fabric shop called Katie Corners. It's a fabric shop. And so if you want rope supplies, I can get them. I mostly deal in fabrics and notions. So you can just reach out to me and let me know if you want. If there's any other questions or anything that you want, I just have to say kudos to everyone who is sharing. Your talents are unbelievable and they're so inspiring. Keep doing what you're doing, because it's what a blessing for all the folks that you know and all the folks that I know that get to benefit from all of your inspiration. So thank you again, and I think we'll say happy stitching, and we'll see you next time, I guess. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Diane.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.